Awesome. Great. Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for joining this session. It's going to be about AI agents, the biggest buzzword of the last few years, and keeping up at speed and scale. So start with a obligatory show of hands. Who's currently using AI agents in their day-to-day work? Wow, that's actually more than I would have guessed. Now, keep those hands up for one more second. How many were using them last March during Treefort? Okay, some early adopters, but also kind of what I thought. Big drop off there. So 2025 was definitely the hype phase for AI agents. I see some familiar faces. I gave a talk last year. Good to see you guys again. So we all heard about them, but we really hadn't started using them in our day-to-day. But 2026 is going to be the year they kind of take the main stage. And in this talk, I want to provide an overview about the types of agents there are, how they're being used in different contexts, SaaS products that now have these automation workbenches built into them, and how the modern work environment is going to continue to evolve, which is going to keep us on our toes for the foreseeable future. So whether you work with agents daily or you're brand new to the topic, hopefully you'll walk away with something tangible today. That's my hope. So quick agenda. I want to talk a little bit about me. Really short part about what agents are, the types of agents and how I classify them, and then cover some advances in GenAI over the last 12 months. This whole framing is around last Treefort to this Treefort, and then next Treefort. Because then I'll share some predictions and some recommendations. First things first, who am I? This is my little Hackfort baseball card here. But I'm Nick Terkay. I live here in Boise. Big surprise, I work in tech. Many years ago, I studied computer science, bachelor's and master's degree, and focused on cognitive science, which is a kind of interdisciplinary mesh of philosophy, psychology, computer science, neuroscience, and linguistics. And that's kind of the foundations of artificial intelligence. But I didn't work entirely doing those over the last 20 years. Spanned first as a developer, as a consultant, as a startup founder, and now as a field CTO for a company called UnoSecure. So we're an identity security platform, and we help companies secure not only AI agents and the permissions associated with them, but all human, non-human identities. So if that's interesting, please reach out, but that's not what this talk is going to be about. As I mentioned, last year I spoke about Treefort and about agents, and those who are here will remember I did like a very Matrix-themed vibe, and it was really fun. And it's wild to like look back in just those 12 months and how much has changed in this space. Like the way I prepared for that presentation, I still used Google. I talked to people that were professionals in the field that were early adopters building agents. And I took a course. I wrote some code to build an agent platform. And I kind of feel like a digital blacksmith compared to today. So this year, completely different story. I probably like all of you, I relied heavily on preparing this presentation with the research of AI assistants. And to be honest, it'd be so hard to have not, because this space is changing so fast that if I prepared this 2 months ago, it would have been really almost feel like out of date. I would be like shamed by you all, like we don't do that anymore. So I feel like at this rate, when I'm here, hopefully again at Treefort next year, I'm just going to be in the back. I'm going to have a drink, and I'll be a cyborg, and my AI agents will be up here just doing the talk for me. But I hope you enjoy the human form while we still have it. Great, so let's get started. First place I'd like to start, really kind of simple framing, how I define them, 2 parts, brain and body. The brain, in most cases, this is going to be the LLM, large language model. I'm sure you're all familiar with that at this point, but this is one kind of AI, and this is where all the thinking happens. Handles the reasoning, the planning, and it decides which actions to take based on the situation. Then, of course, the body. So this is where the action happens, the functionality, the integrations into other platforms, other tools, giving it the ability to interact beyond its immediate environment and perform more higher level tasks. So that's the simplest way I found to describe it. Going a few more steps technical, when I say tools, I'm not talking about a circular saw. It's the functions that we can pass to an LLM so that it can kind of fulfill these deeper objectives. And that's the thing. So LLMs are trained on historical text. They can't interact with real-time data, so we have to give them this ability to connect through tools to get that up-to-date data. So that's kind of the simplest way I look at it. LLMs receive text as input, they generate text as output. Of course, over the years, that's evolved to do images and other videos and things. And so whenever we tell an LLM about the existence of tools, it can then access those through language inference, and it goes to the bottom and says, how do I prepare a command to pass that, what the tool needs to do what this human or autonomously would like to do. So the agent reads that output from the LLM, it recognizes that that's a specific tool call that it's been equipped with, and it goes out and takes action on the LLM's behalf. So that's kind of how it's glued together. If that was like the largest incomprehensible tech talk part, don't worry, like that's it. It's going to be higher level from there. So that's as low level as we'll get today. So move on and talk about the different types of agents. This is how I classify it. Some might say there's a lot more. Some might say there's only two. But I like to think about it as three kinds of agents: developer tools and coding assistants. These were some of the first ones we saw a few years ago. Enterprise tools and SaaS assistants. These have kind of emerged over the last few years, and then custom agents. And I'll dig a little bit deeper into those kind of homegrown ones as we go on. So first up, coding assistants. You've probably heard of some of the more popular ones: Cursor, Claude Code, and these are autonomous teammates that a traditional software engineer could use to build, test, and fix software, and shifting their role currently from someone who writes code to someone who manages agents to write the code for them. And really what's evolved in the last few years, or last year, I'll just say, is it's not just for software engineers. People of all walks of life, no background in computer science or development training, they're using these tools. They're empowered now. They can build their own apps and automations. And I'll say this a few times, everyone is a developer now. The second group, I like to kind of bucket as enterprise and SaaS agents. So these are agents that live directly in the office software you might use in a modern enterprise, help you automate or some admin workflows that you have, acting as this 24/7 digital coworker to eliminate the busy work we all have. Free us up from that toil, you have more creativity in the job. That's the promise, right? And the third kind, custom agents. So these are the ones you could build yourself, on your laptop at home. Or in the case of businesses, these are going to be built by internal IT teams or developers at your company, and they handle your company's kind of unique proprietary workflows or your own unique proprietary workflows that you want to automate in your life. And they often connect to internal sensitive data, and so you're supposed to have security guardrails, right now. And you really want to architect them with a human in the loop. I'll say that phrase a few times today too, for some of these more high stakes decisions that we shouldn't feel comfortable automating. So let's take a closer look at each. Developer tools are some of the first AI agents, and some of where the kind of most radical changes have been in the past year. As I mentioned, I believe everyone is a developer now. We've evolved from the basic coding assistants that tell you what the next line of code should be to fully autonomous agents that act inside of our IDEs. IDE is an integrated development environment. For example, so Cursor, it now has access to universal protocols that give agents this real-time access to data in other tools, gives the entire project context, including the documentation, server architectures, deployment pipelines, and you don't need to know anything about that to develop highly intelligent code. So a great way to kind of understand this evolution, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with Anthropic and the tools that they have. So we've all used chat, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude Chat. Then there's this conversational interface. And we were using it to generate code or come up with different ideas, maybe some high-level mock-ups for a UI or something like this. Then they introduced Claude Code. This is much more for the developer, kind of the true agentic developer tool. And it can work autonomously for days or hours on the tasks that you want. So in one case, Claude navigated a code base of 12.5 million lines of code. That's very large. And it was given a complex feature, and it worked 7 hours straight. It just chewed away at the task, and the development team looked at it and said this was 99% accurate. So it worked a full workday, right? And that would probably take a developer a few weeks, and there'd be a lot of back and forth. So, and more recently, just to kind of talk about the evolution, is Claude Cowork. So this is a wrapper around Claude Code that makes it not feel like you're in a terminal. That feels very hacker Neo level, right? So it's just, and Anthropic said too, their CTO is like, oh yeah, I built that in 2 days using an agent. So like that's how fast they're able to build code that opens this up to more and more users. And so yeah, Cowork for the coding uninitiated, it just makes you feel more comfortable, gives you access, can take over your computer to take actions. For example, you can give it a Chrome tool. So what you see on the screen, it sees on the screen. And you just say, start doing stuff and scripting it, and it'll write automations and code that'll just do all those tasks for you, whether it's Chrome, your file system, other things like this. And there's a lot of practices out there to help you get familiar with it, but definitely seeing like more HR teams, design teams using this for operational tasks with no need to go to the IT or engineering department and beg for some attention. Whoops. So kind of moving on to enterprise tools and SaaS automation assistants. I kind of just refer to these as our everyday co-pilots. Like every product will have an AI co-pilot in it. That was like the first, GitHub Copilot back to the day. Now it's not even that great of a tool compared to the other ones. But these tools don't just answer questions. Like they have brains, they have bodies, they can reason, they can take actions. And you'll find these like living directly in the software you use. So it could be something to automatically route supporting requests. It could be Jira or ServiceNow. They have their own agent offers. Or to automate creating a report from SharePoint or Google Docs, or pulling live CRM data from Salesforce or HubSpot, so you can bring it with you on a call and have this agent tell you what to say next and know every detail about that customer's history. Helps us repeat these kind of rote tasks. And a big part of the talk today is going to be like we are kind of all responsible, because we can't really necessarily rely on the training of our companies, to take a step back and re-architect our workflows, considering how these tools work. It's going to be about orchestrating digital assistants, looking at their output and using our human creativity and understanding to assess what needs to happen next. Different way of thinking about work, and there's no doubt in my mind it's going to be very painful in this adoption phase for all of us. Last kind, custom agents. So kind of mentioned this, but some workflows are just a little bit too proprietary for the off-the-shelf products to support, and they're not really for the developer IDE set too. So this is where custom agents come in. Mentioned often built by internal IT teams or developers, subject matter experts, to augment. It could be a product that you offer to your customers, but most commonly these are internal in your back office tools. And so these agents act autonomously. They're supposed to have governance and guardrails in mind. We configure them with role-based access controls or otherwise. There's some new emerging patterns for identity and access management. For example, draft a financial report, but unable to make payments. So the most successful ones here do have the human in the loop architecture. That's gonna, like, if they have to escalate a complex decision to a human overseer, right? So last year at my talk, I talked about one of these frameworks that I used. It's very easy to learn. It's called Small Agents. I still highly recommend that, but in the years since, there's been dozens of these. So it's, yes, Small Agents, like the cool way to spell it, SMOL, I don't know. So that they have great tutorials, still love that one. More recently, I've been using something called Strands. Helps integrate with AWS Agent Core, makes that really easy to actually deploy it in the world if your company's on AWS. And then there's really are dozens more. LangGraph and Crew AI were some of the first ones. They continue to add more, and they still work great. They help kind of the very complex multi-agent workflows.
Where would you put Clause in this 1, 2, 3? Would you consider him a custom agent, or is it a fourth type? Because it's with the heartbeat, it's doing its own thing.
I think you're right. That's what I mean. These three buckets are like kind of how I've been framing it, but the Claw is a kind of a newer system access one. I mean, I guess I put it somewhere in all three of the buckets because like NVIDIA just released their Claw, and that'll be for enterprises. A lot of brave souls installed OpenClaw on their laptop, and we'll see what happens there. I guess that's kind of a custom agent, but it's an open source thing that you can just deploy. So yeah, I'd say custom agent. And then, yeah, it could be used for development tasks. It really, for everyone that might not know about OpenClaw, it's something you give basically full system access to do whatever the heck an agent wants, and it was full of security holes. And that guy never made $1 off the open source tool, but he was acquired by OpenAI for large amounts of money to go work for them. So it's cool. And just to give that guy some props, he was a very strong developer advocate guy for many years, built many open source tools. So it wasn't an overnight success that he did that. But yeah, great question. Hopefully that was helpful. Yeah, so that's custom agents and the types of agents. I want to touch quickly on some advances in GenAI, primarily regarding agents, LLMs, and tools. There's been a lot of advances, but I'd say over the past year, AI has this new ability to sense things. Previous generations may only have been able to talk. They can now see, think, and take further actions. So last year we weren't quite there, but we're not chatbots. We're autonomous agents, assistive AI to agentic AI. And they don't wait for humans to prompt them. That before we were the ones giving them kind of constant human in the loop. They can do multi-step workflows on their own, invoke tools everywhere, correct their own errors, and then execute that across your enterprise systems. So the principal reason that agents have become so powerful is the advances in the models, the brains. The major players have given them very advanced reasoning capabilities. So if you experimented with agents a year ago, these different frameworks I mentioned, or the different models you might have tried to install them, or just API calls or different things, you might have said, it's just really not there. It's just not that good. If you tried it 6 months ago, different experience. 3 months ago, different. It's changed so rapidly that like if you sort of threw up your hands and gave up, I was like, please try again. So OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, XAI, like last year at Treefort to this year at Treefort, they've upgraded everything. So like one way to think about it is imagine this agent that you can have by your side that can read a dozen books in a single glance. That's what the LLM can do, this elephant memory. Vast amounts of information to remember at once, makes fewer mistakes as well. Instead of giving like text answers, like I mentioned, they can do images, they can do audio, they can make video. They can tap into live social media feeds for breaking news. This is a XAI specific kind of feature given that they're Twitter. And they can pause deeply. That's something I talked about in the talk last year was this model of think before act. It's like the model companies added that phrase in the beginning of the instruction set, and it vastly changes the reasoning capabilities, but they've enhanced that so much in the past year. So I mentioned some can even like take control of your screen, complete these tasks for you, and ultimately like these are not just for answering questions. They can just like tackle complex work alongside you. And so yeah, the idiom that came to my mind was agents now walk the walk, not just talk the talk. And so let's take a deeper look at some of those advances. So I talked about some of these advanced senses. So the reasoning revolution, AI's like learned to measure twice and cut once. They often made confident mistakes. I think we all kind of experienced this in the past years because they simply just would predict the next word. Hallucinations is what we call that. So the latest and greatest models have this thinking before responding built in at every layer. And by working through the problems step by step, they can double check their own work. That before we had to really double check a lot of that. Now they double check that, drastically reducing the errors. And they now have eyes and ears. Instead of being trapped in this text box, the multimodal kind of modern models can seamlessly process text, images, video, and audio all at the same time, in real time. So like I thought it could be helpful to like talk about this in concrete terms, or like a real example. So ask you all to imagine like a broken machine on a factory floor. And because it has eyes, a video camera, the AI agent can watch that live video. They can detect that there's a damage there, there's a defective part. And because it can think, it can internally cross-reference that damage to a technical manual that lives in a different system. It can internally diagnose the issue, write up a ticket, take action, and autonomously schedule something in the company's maintenance system for repair. No human needs to be involved for any of that, which might have taken days or weeks to catch. put it through the, it is like working in a company. So by combining the ability to kind of think deeply, to perceive the physical world, AI is definitely not a chatbot anymore. It's really is like a coworker. So we talked a lot about the brain and thinking systems, but there has been a lot of advances in the body side. The agent's ability to make tool calls and gain other capabilities. Previously, like last year when I gave the talk, MCP was like just announced, February 25. So I didn't have even much like say about it yet. It wasn't widely adopted, but now it is. So before it was like you had to build custom integrations. Now you can write a MCP wrapper around it. So the model context protocol is this breakthrough. It was introduced by Anthropic. It's kind of like a universal standard. Like anywhere you read about it, they'll call it the USB-C for AI. And developers now can have like one connection per application that can connect it with hundreds of other tools. Yes, sir.
Do you foresee, or I guess maybe how fast do you foresee OpenAI fully adopting MCP and Anthropic and other language models?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, like whenever I use Cursor and Claude, I'm connecting to other MCP servers, and it's not because Claude, like because they're Anthropic, they created it. So I think they have to. They have to have the ability to let people who are using it connect to that ecosystem. How much they put that front and center, I don't know, but they're lagging behind. I mean, OpenAI was the kind of every man's tool or every person's tool. We use it for chat. And Anthropic was like, and it was very, sycophantic. It pays you compliments, does all this type of behavior. And Claude's not like that. It's very enterprise from like day one. Of course, people can use it for chat too, but it had that enterprise vibe. But I do think OpenAI will have to at least play nicely with it. But yeah, they've all kind of come up with their own little ways to have custom integrations in their tools. But the ability to customize to a broader MCP ecosystem, I think they'll have to.
The agent side, your Slack and all the examples you have out there, we're seeing come along very quickly. But just the OpenAI in particular is kind of behind.
Yeah, they're definitely behind. I mean, and that's why they've added the advertising model, which is very scary that that's in their consumer product. Because I don't know how that's going to play out. So I think developers now only need this one connection per application. Everyone's a developer now. You can connect to this broad MCP ecosystem and kind of give more superpowers to your agents to do things in different tools. Whether it's this sort of standard connections to pull live data to different systems and execute those workflows in real time. And back to what I'm working on now, MCP versus so again this talk, and I know there's going to be some people in the audience that are like MCP is dead, CLI is now the leader. It's like it's going to be a holy war for sure. It's going to be both, but MCP it provides a standard. I mean it gives traditional identity and access management that your internal security team can actually understand role-based access controls or time-based access controls, and so this can help keep your enterprise data safe. I think they've shown with CLI tools that you can also have allow lists and access control lists, but it's similar. You would never, if you're building a product 10 years ago and you have a REST API call, you're not giving a direct database connection to your application. You do it through this framework, which allows you to have better logging and monitoring and know exactly what's happening. So I think CLI will have its place. I think it'll run on local machines. I don't know how rapidly it'll make its way into enterprise systems. So I still believe MCP is the winner right now. This is something I'm working on every day. We actually kind of have one specific product in the MCP identity space. Yes?
I think the big difference is that MCP, you don't have to publish. The part of the MCP protocol is that the agent goes, oh, what's your MCP protocol? And it gets everything it needs to. Whereas the CLI, it might have to download that from NPM or something else. So it has to know about it already.
Yes,
MCP, it doesn't have to know about it.
That's a great way to think about it. I mean, yeah, there's a compile process that has to happen. MCP is real time. If you got a new tool, a new server, a new MCP server gave you these new tools, you can call it, that could be changed like that. Yeah, great way to think about that. Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing something. So is there a tool that is CLI or is it command line interface?
Yeah, it's just the command line interface. So in Claude Code, you're just The OpenClaw was kind of this like revolution that's like it can just take over anything on your machine. So imagine it's running in the terminal, taking these actions on your machine or on your server, like a local machine or your server. So it's just running command line interfaces to execute those jobs. And MCP, in many ways, is an API wrapper. You could like your exact public API, you could just wrap it really quickly with MCP, or you might have more complex actions and not take the same exact way. So a little bit of mix of both. But yeah, I thought that was a great point about real time versus a recompile with a CLI. Okay, MCP. And so, it's Treefort, so it's all about the vibes. So it's not just like vibe coding was like a developer thing. Everyone's vibe coding now. Last year I mentioned about my friend Tom, who I was building this multi-agent system for. He's a musician, he's a professor, he wanted to kind of go on tour, he wanted to do these different things. So I built him a booking agent platform, and that was fun. Now he's like a way better vibe coder than I am. So I thought I was doing something for him. He's building apps, cranking them out. So everyday people, I don't say like as a condescending way, but everyone here, anyone, can use plain natural language, instruct AI to build custom apps for whatever you want. So there's platforms you can use that can help you, like Zapier or N8N or some of these automation tools, and you might have tried those a year ago and said, I still didn't understand how to do it. Now you can have AI write your N8N scripts for you and do the workflow just talking to it. That's a huge difference. So now, many people could just customize these to share an inbox, extract an invoice or resume data, and it's pretty wild. So like I mentioned previously, these are now coming built in, bundled in with our SaaS tools as well. So these task-specific agents, you can imagine Google Workspace as Gemini, Microsoft 365 as Copilot, SaaS tools like Workday or Salesforce. They all have their own specific agentic offers. I was going to throw shade on Salesforce. I'm going to not skip that. It still uses SOAP, if anyone knows what that means. These autonomous agents are everywhere we look. I mean, they can synthesize access across all your emails, your calls, your calendar, automate generated reports, reach outs for you. I think you all are seeing this probably in your day-to-day. So nothing too new that I'm saying there. So while some of these live directly in our SaaS tools, others are in standalone products, and these have kind of become very powerful thinking partners. So of course, we've all used ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, but those are built in a way that we say, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. It uses the M dash. I don't care for that. But there's products built on top of these. They might not have foundational models, but they know your workflow. They know what you're trying to do. So crafting an email or writing a report, use Grammarly, use copy.ai. I mean, that's another subscription that you have to have, but they're much better. And so I think that's, for outlining, proofreading, stuff like that, but it's also in visual media. So I don't know if there's designers in the room use Canva for things. Canva now has amazing AI features. You tell it to build you a PowerPoint deck or design a website or any sort of marketing events you're having. It's right there with you. Midjourney as well. You don't need this like large marketing budget to kind of prototype creative. That's now become much easier. The promise is this is going to enable teams to execute at the speed of their ideas and not get gummed up by, sorry, you're in the queue. We'll get to that when we get to it. And then the creativity, the idea kind of just dies right there. So collectively, I've been thinking about these advances in agentic AI as the year of the hybrid workspace and marking 2026 as that. I'm gonna open this real quick. So not just managing human employees, the modern workforce is going to be managing this human digital partnership. I know this sounds like sci-fi, but just coming back from a cybersecurity conference, like this is what everyone was talking about, like org charts with agents that report to you and kind of how these new systems are going to evolve to be this hybrid. Not to replace human judgment, delegate the process to the AIs that humans never really love doing, and allow us to focus on the validation and that kind of more complex problem solving. So this is being redefined as we're all living and breathing right now, this continuous partnership between the human experts and the autonomous AIs. and this can view it as like a skills partnership of this hybrid workforce. So a new class of intellectual worker. They're acting able to make decisions, generate real business outcomes on their own, and the primary role of all of us, it's shifting, and it's happening quite quick. So instead of performing repetitive tasks, we become the supervisors of these agents. Customer service manager might oversee some agents and some humans and create workflows where these like human in the loop escalation points are there for the human to take over, but otherwise, and I'm sure you've all felt this in products. Remember when you used to be able to like reach out to Amazon? Not at all. Like I just like escalate. You just can't do it. And so I think we're going to see more of that just in our usage of other products, but we're going to see more of it in our like how we build our own products and how we work internally in tools. So I mentioned it's really important to have the human in the loop as part of the architecture. You know, they do have this independent thought, but we have to give it boundaries, and we have to like have those clear escalations. And this isn't meant to replace us; it's meant to augment us. And I really think that like the human workforce can be freed to focus on strategy, on creative, on empathy, and on like real complex problem solving. And that kind of leads me to the 3 predictions that I have. You know, I really feel like we are at a turning point. Last year, I think it was still really kind of felt out there. This year, so much faster. And so the first one I don't think is very controversial. This is just going to be the new normal. Over the next 12 months, we're going to just trying to be catching up with the latest press release. And by the end of 26, the industry analysts project that 40% of our enterprise tools will have these Copilot, these task-specific AI agents built into them. Today, that's at 5%. So just to share, of the tools we have, how many more of them are going to have this type of experience? Massive leap. We're moving away from that assistance that sit there waiting to be prompted and towards this like intelligent ecosystems of everything being connected and collaborating in the background. And you don't have to like go looking for the AI to help you. It's going to be a part of a network of specialized agents. It's going to coordinate across your HR, finance ecosystem and come back with decisions for you to make. And it's not going to be easy. I mean, a lot of these projects are going to fail. Enterprises are going to think it's too easy. They're going to try to force AI into legacy systems that instead of redefining business workflows and rebuilding things, they're going to try to retrofit old things, and it's probably not going to fit.
Why are they going to fail? Maybe you could start to answer that.
Yeah, I mean, back to like the soap thing. I mean, some agents are able to talk with certain types of services a little bit easier. And so something that's living deep inside your network that requires a database backup to be done. Like you're going to try to have to write a bunch of shims on the old software versus perhaps just rethinking the whole workflow. Why did we even do it that way? It's often a good question. The best answer isn't that's the way we always did it. I think that's kind of the point is you might want to take a step back as like the enterprise architect in a company to sort of say, this is the time to move away from that. And since I'm picking on them, I mean, this is happening with Salesforce, like in real, I think in any race this fast, there's winners and there's losers, and some of the same winners are going to keep winning. I think Google and Microsoft will be okay. But like Salesforce, maybe not. I mean, they charge so much money for this config. You spend $1 million on the license, and you spend 4 years configuring it, and no one's still happy with it. So like CTOs are going, I will vibe code, and you typically only use about 10% of a product. It has all these features because different people buy different parts of it. People are saying, I'll vibe code this thing in 2 weeks and save us $1 million. Like that's happening, and people are talking about it and putting the playbooks out there. So I think a lot of people are in those types of companies of that era are definitely scared. Got a couple over here.
Salesforce charges per seat.
Yes.
That is accessing their software. Most SaaS charges per seat or per user. Is an agent a user? If it's only accessing the API, whether or not it's SOAP or REST or whatever, how do you charge an agent for access?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, Claude, or rather Anthropic, whenever they released Claude Code, they found that people were just writing wrappers to like use the API versus Claude Code and like saving a lot of money because the token counter, I forget exactly how Claude Code charges that, but yeah, that's going to be we will see, pricing models per agent access, perhaps, and like what's the difference between an agent versus a sub-agent making the call? Is it just more volume-based data just on calls? So I think if an agent on average makes 1 million calls because it's curious, where a human just like makes 10 calls, like that hits that company's server and they have to pay that bill. So I think we'll see more on volume.
But Salesforce is charging it per user, for like,
right.
And that's your key to access their service or whatever. It's per key, but all the agents can share one key.
Yes. Please. Oh, shh. Okay. Yeah. Consumption. Yeah, I think that's. Yes, sir.
Question. So, like a lot of these software as a service companies, like a typical business would only use maybe 10% of the features you get with that. And with vibe coding becoming really accessible to non-technical people, do you see potentially the end of a lot of these software as a service company where I'll just say, okay, I'll use these features, I'm just going to write my custom internal tools and push these out to my coworkers?
I do. I mean, I think that we thought we'd like kind of moved from on-prem systems to the cloud and SaaS providers, and like, why do we want to manage all of that ourselves? And VPNs are dead, the network perimeter's dead, and I think we're going to see some more of that come back inside the network, and these tools that people can VPN into to use that are part of like, you're probably still in the cloud, but I mean, not outsourcing them to a SaaS provider that just has you stuck. I mean, it's so hard to switch like from Jira to ServiceNow, or it's just so much more painful to go through that they can just hold you hostage for whatever they want to charge you per user, per integration, seat models. So yeah, I definitely predict that.
I just want to tie those two narratives together.
Please.
With something that I see in my friend circles, any tool provider right now is being replaced maybe whimsically because I only need 10%, or I want to try it and it works and all those things. If any of the tool providers out there is doing any shenanigans with pricing, they're gone. So I'm not waiting for this scenario. Charge for per agent use. It's almost like I dare you, because that's going to be bad. So, because then exactly that will happen. People will go like, I'm not going to pay that. Because the white coding actually works. So that's a really big danger and a really interesting battleground right now to watch. If you're not in it, I apologize. I'm not ever going to hear you.
Yeah. Battleground's a great word, and I think a lot of folks in IT and security will still say, "Well, I like the audit logging." It may not. I don't. You buy a tool sometimes because of the enterprise controls. They have the certs. They work with FedRAMP or whatever. So I think that's going to stick around for a while, and the vibe coded apps you built will need a different type of. They'll still need pen tests, and they're running inside your network, but how they connect your identities of your humans in your workforce to interact with them, like you need to build that as well. So I think the IAM providers, maybe Okta and Entra, they're going to have maybe another resurgence of like this agentic identity for internal systems, perhaps. Great. I appreciate the questions. I don't want to save them for the end. This is way more dynamic for me too. So I guess the other prediction is like we can't talk about this new proliferation of all these new agents taking our jobs without what's going to happen to us. I mean, this is like trillions of dollars in labor shift. And originally they kind of thought this disruption was a decade away, but we're in it. We're very clearly in it. And it's terrifyingly well ahead of schedule. So today they say that 93% of jobs are exposed to AI disruption. And that's $4.5 trillion in labor shift from humans to machines, and that's just in the US. And we feel this, we see this. This is going to be a painful transition. We see it in mass layoffs. Companies like Block and Oracle, every company, right, across the board. But these ones saying, no, we got rid of those 40,000 jobs because an agent can do their job. Feels demoralizing as a human if that happens to you. Amazon cut 16,000 corporate roles. European banks forecast 200,000 job losses. And they're taking over back office jobs, this sort of entry-level financial analysts. So I feel like you get it from both sides. If you're just graduating with a degree, who's going to hire you? They only have room for one senior person. And then on the other side, you're at the end of the career. If you get laid off, it's super hard to say that you're tooled up on the latest and getting a job. So I think that's going to be it's going to be another painful year in this transition. And like organizations are going to stop looking at AI as a software tool. It's like managing a new class of employee and moving to this hybrid model of carbon-based humans and silicon-based digital agents. And so that's like leads me into the kind of third prediction is this need for constant retraining. The skills that you learned even yesterday could be obsolete in 6 months. And that's not something we're used to. Some people say, I learned that when I was 20, and that's I pound nails the same way. You know, I've been doing it that way. So we see this in the demand for what I'll call like AI fluency. That to confidently use and manage AI, and to survive this, like yearly training programs probably not going to be enough. Rapid response training, like as something new comes out. You need these sort of technologists and digital enablers and organizations to help the staff learn the latest, assess if we want to move from what we're currently doing to that one. Because if we've all done that, chase the shiny object, open cloud, apply it everywhere because it can do all those things, but there's real security risks and there's real, again, pain in the workforce. And so there's only so much an organization entropy that they can handle at any given time. So it sounds kind of nice. On one hand, less rote tasks, less toil. It's kind of the techno-optimist view, less hands-on work and repetitive work. We'll see. So this kind of all reminds me of a critical warning from Yuval Noah Harari. He's most famously known for the book *Sapiens*. If you've heard this one, this is probably more than 10 years ago now. But his latest book is called *Nexus*. And he argues that AI, so the book breaks down a lot of different information systems back to books, to library cataloging systems, to politics, to just viewing everything as an information network. And he kind of talks about how AI is just so much fundamentally different from any other invention that we've ever come up with. The printing press, the atom bomb, wow, changed the world. But they were operated by humans. AI is an active agent. It makes decisions and can do them take actions entirely on their own. And so he kind of makes the case, he makes the argument that as more of our financial and legal and bureaucratic networks move to autonomous agents, we risk building an alien intelligence, scary stuff, right? And it will operate at the speed and scale that we simply will not be able to comprehend. And if we do not kind of retrain our workforce, if we lose that crucial human in the loop element, we risk being ultimately alienated and replaced by the very networks that we built to serve us. So our absolute priority for 26 has to be ensure that humans remain in charge of this technology and don't become its subjects. There's one quote I like here from a futurist author, a guy from the 70s. He said this in the 1970s, Alvin Toffler. I think it kind of captures this. So the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. And I really believe that. So now that I've officially killed the vibes, I'll try to end on a positive note here with some practical, kind of tangible recommendations. So like all things in life, we could kind of whine about it, but that never gets us anywhere. So it's not the strongest that survive, it's the most intelligent, the ones that are most responsive to change. And the first step I'd recommend is, immersing yourself in the conversation. Get on LinkedIn, follow some of these, AI agent influencers, kind of building and experimenting and doing those things. I know it's cringe. I know it's like, these are content marketers. There's a make you comment agent there to get their tool or whatever, but just try to get over that. I know it's lame, but I think there's just do it anyway. Those templates are things that you can see how they wired it up. You can see if you could modify it. It's a really easy starting place. You don't have to invent the process from scratch if you don't want to. They're doing their public trial and error for you. So next, I'll always recommend this, but especially in this era, do a deep dive and try to build something yourself. Take a day off of work. Pull an all-nighter. This is where I mentioned my friend Tom. that's how he got really good at it. It just kind of, and I can reflect on learning a new programming language or going back in time. Like you really have to have something that pushes you over the edge so you kind of really properly understand it. So I recommend that. On the job, encourage the concept of a minimum viable agent. So don't try to boil the ocean. What's the smallest thing that you could do that could automate one of your tasks? Last, double down on the human domain expertise. So they're going to take over a lot of our work, but there are this deep domain things that are just going to be hard to communicate to the AI. Don't forget this. It cannot replace our empathy. It cannot replace our team building. Let the technology handle the execution and kind of free yourself up to focus on those human innovation elements, connection, and what really brings meaning to our workplace. She gave me the 2-minute flash up, so I'm going to end on this conclusion slide. One more story. There's a CEO of a leading supply chain company, and classic. Was being pushed by his board of directors to go all in with AI. And so they deployed these highly advanced AI agents that analyze their logistics and their supply chain and their shipping routes and cutting vendor costs, no stone unturned. And the AI set was instructed to autonomously cut, the most expensive and inefficient parts of this supply chain operation. And it worked. It worked perfectly. The agent sent an email directly to the chairman of the board. And it recommended firing the entire C-suite and replace it with a $20 a month Python script. So obviously a bad joke, but we all relate. And this is the raw, unfiltered power of agentic AI. I just want to kind of remind about our action plan, cultivate this lab mindset, the minimum viable agent at work. Everyone's a developer now. I would like to get to your question, but I'm going to try to finish this first. And our goal is not to try to be faster than AI or outcompute it or outperform it. It's to build a skills partnership with it. And if you're feeling overwhelmed on where to start, reach out. Let's navigate this Wild West together. Last year I met someone in the audience, actually, John's here. He asked me if I could give my talk from last year to his company. Sure, absolutely. So I encourage anyone that would like me to do something like that or just a fun hang sometime, I'm down. Got my LinkedIn up here. I've got a link to this presentation. If you want it, it's at my website, night.io/hackfort-2026. And I highly recommend sticking around for the next talk. Perhaps I'm biased. My friend Charles is here. We used to work together, and I really love this subject. It kind of dovetails nicely. It's like the case for curiosity is like, it really does provide true business value, and that the real, the shift of we focus so much now on data science and quantitative and these cold hard metrics, and they run so much of our lives. So I think I'll have some really uplifting notes to complement this. So thanks so much for your time. Wishing you all a very happy Treefort. Happy to stick around for questions and connect after. So thank you.